Russian forces have bombarded areas of Ukraine's eastern Donbas region from land and air. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says the Russians have completely destroyed the area. He's accusing Russia of genocide.
The armed forces of Ukraine continue advancing to liberate the Kharkiv region. But in Donbas, the occupiers are trying to exert even more pressure. It is held there, and it is not an exaggeration. The brutal and absolutely senseless bombardment of Severodonetsk, there were 12 killed and dozens wounded in just one day. The bombardment and shelling of other cities, air and missile strikes by the Russian army, all this is not just fighting during the war. Russian strikes on the Chernihiv region, particularly the terrible attack on Desna. The removal of debris is ongoing there, many killed. Constant strikes on the Odessa region and on the cities of central Ukraine. Donbas is completely destroyed. All this has no and cannot have any military explanation for Russia. This is a deliberate and criminal attempt to kill as many Ukrainians as possible, destroy as many houses, social facilities and enterprises as possible. This is what will qualify as the genocide of the Ukrainian people and for which the occupiers will definitely be brought to justice.
Russian shelling in the Lugansk area has killed 13 civilians in the last 24 hours. Russia's forces have pushed forward and taken more ground, but Ukraine has its own artillery and is firing back. What is not clear is how many of their modern howitzers have managed to reach the battlefields in the east. Meanwhile, nearly 1,700 Ukrainian soldiers are reported to be taken to a Russian prison yard in Donetsk region. According to Russian figures, they surrendered at the Azovstal steel plant. Russian state TVs released videos of Ukrainian soldiers in hospital. It claims these fighters who were at the Azovstal steel plant are receiving treatment in Donetsk region. Ukraine says there are still hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers inside the besieged steel plant. And the deputy commander of Azov regiment has released a video saying the fight is still going.
Glory to Ukraine. Today is the 75th day of war. Me and the other commanding officers remain on the territory of the Azovstal plant. A certain operation is going on, the details of which I will not disclose. Thanks to the whole world and thanks to Ukraine for support. We will see each other.
Well, let's go to our correspondent Chris Jones, who's joining us live now from Riga. And Chris, it does look like Russia is ramping up the pressure in the east of Ukraine, especially in the Donbas region. What's the latest you can bring us?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we heard it there that President Zelensky had addressed the nation in a video address and described the Donbas as hell. We've also seen more shelling in the area of Lugansk. 13 civilians are judged to have died because of that shelling. Also in that address, we heard Zelensky say that there have been constant strikes on the Odessa region, on the cities of central Ukraine, and the Donbas is completely destroyed. Now, many of these people in these areas, in Severodonetsk, in Lugansk, and also Mariupol, have been left without drinking water, without any real food supply for several weeks and months. They've also been trapped in their basements because of that fear of the constant shelling that has been taking place in the east. Now, Zelensky also said that there is an increased pressure coming from Russian troops in the east as they move to try and take more parts of that area. However, according to the UK's Ministry of Defence, that might be a slightly rash move. They say that they are low on morale because of key defeats in areas such as Kyiv and Kharkiv, and also that they're low on supplies because of the length of time it's taken them to take areas like Mariupol. So it says if they are to push forward effectively and efficiently, they will have to stop and regroup and resupply. The Ministry of Defence also does say, though, that commanders are unlikely to do that. They want to show the Kremlin that they are capable of taking key military objectives. And so it seems as though the war in the east of Ukraine is very much going to ramp up in the next coming days, weeks and months.
Okay, Chris. And Ukraine is, of course, a huge global exporter of wheat and sunflower oil. And since the Russian invasion, it hasn't been able to export those items properly. What are the implications of that? And are we about to see a global food crisis as a result?
Well, I think we are on the verge of a global food crisis. As it stands, the UN says that combined Russia and Ukraine provide around about a quarter of the world's wheat and around about 60% of the world's sunflower oil. The UN also says that there are around about 36 countries spanning in different continents that rely on these types of supplies from Ukraine and Russia. And it also says that food prices have gone up by about 30% since this time last year because of the Russian invasion. And all of this has really been brought about mostly because of that annexation of the Black Sea. Russia has taken a lot of control of those key ports in that area, which is a key export route for Ukraine to get things like sunflower oil and wheat out of the country. And US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he said at a UN meeting that the food supply for millions of Ukrainians and millions more across the world has quite literally been held hostage by the Russian military. Now, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says that he's in talks with the Kremlin to try and alleviate some of those supplies and get them out so that the world can avoid famine in certain places. But Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has come out and said that unless the West removes some of its, and he describes them as insane economic sanctions, then their standpoint is not likely to change anytime soon.
Thanks, Chris.